Welcome to Wednesday, Hump Day Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at WyomingAdvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, fair weather for today and tomorrow, but we're going to see things change a little bit. Certainly the far southwest United States and places like California will be getting wet again. But for a lot of the central and northern high plains and Rockies, while there will be a few showers in a few locations, there just won't be a lot happening. Now, we do have this low pressure system, that low that gets kicked out of Southern California, coming through Thursday night and Friday. We've got to watch this little system. I think it may produce more weather than some forecasts are suggesting, especially for parts of Colorado, maybe extreme southeastern Wyoming, and some wet weather for parts of the southern plains. We'll talk about that here in a moment. The weekend through Monday, not much happening. The pattern kind of goes through a readjustment phase before it buckles. What do I mean by buckles? Well, the jet stream buckles in response to those stratospheric and hemispheric changes that we've been discussing. We discussed yesterday that there are two separate cold shots. Next week, the timing of those look to be about the same. This will bring travel weather concerns to a good part of the nation, central and western United States, in particular for the Thanksgiving travel period. Now, you saw that rainbow in the first shot. We had a rainbow really put on a display along the Bighorns yesterday morning from Sheridan to Buffalo. Getting a nice morning rainbow like that, that's kind of a treat. And a nice scene there from western Nebraska with the hay bales and some shots out of Arizona. This time of year, when the seasons change and the snowbirds head south, we start to get desert southwest photos. Beautiful shot there. And some cloud buildup with that low pressure system down in southern Arizona around the Yuma area, and a beautiful sunrise shot yesterday morning in southeastern Wyoming. Satellite photos this morning show this low right here. This is what gets kicked out and goes this way. The next low up here, going to come in and kick that guy out here and bring the next round of wet weather to the desert southwest and California in the days ahead. And on the water vapor, you see it a little bit easier. There's a good fetch of moisture with this system. That's why we kind of keep an eye on it. Although it's not going to be a strong system when it comes this way, it's got some moisture with it. The next system up here, heading southeast. So if we take a look at the 500 millibar chart this morning, you can see where that system's going to be, Southern Cal. The next system coming in behind it is the stronger one. And as it gets kicked out, it'll move right across the area Thursday night and Friday. While this doesn't look terribly strong, and it's not, it is a moist pocket of air. And there's also going to be a broad area of upslope winds into eastern Colorado, into parts of the Front Range around it. But there's not a lot of Canadian air. In fact, there's no Canadian air. This is all Pacific air with this system, as the Canadian air is cut out. So you're not going to get snow levels down into the lower elevations that will amount to much, but you certainly will in the mountains. And so you can see the swath of moisture with this system right here as it comes through over the next 3 days. And we still need to watch this area right here, especially up along the higher terrain of the Cheyenne Ridge and the higher elevations of Interstate 80. There might be more weather here than we're looking at the moment. Certainly the Front Range of Colorado, rain and some wet snow, probably mostly rain out here on the southern plains, but a nice shot of moisture there. And up north, there's going to be a few showers, but again, you can see that there's not much going on. Then as we get into the weekend, the jet stream straightens out west to east. So we're flooding the zone with Pacific air again. Down here, it'll continue to be wet and cloudy and gloomy, but always good to see that moisture going through the southern Rockies and into Texas and the southern plains. This guy right here, this Gulf of Alaska low pressure system, is going to be the instigator to set in motion the changes that happen across the country next week. So this is Sunday, but look what happens in just 2 days. By midday Sunday, this is the pattern. By Tuesday morning, it moves through quickly, and we're starting to see this high pressure develop on the north slope of Alaska, this high pressure here develop across the eastern Pacific, and we're changing air masses. Pacific air mass, so mild, above average temperatures. By Tuesday, air is coming out of the north slope of Alaska, feeding in much colder air into the northern Rockies and into the northern plains. This is by Tuesday morning. So during the day Monday into early Tuesday, we're going to have wintry weather breaking out along here. Travelers, keep that in mind. With the air mass coming out of here, you're going to see a pretty good shot of colder air arriving during the day Tuesday into Wednesday. And there are your temperature anomalies by Wednesday. You can see the cold air pours along and east of the Continental Divide, then spreads out across the plains. For Thanksgiving Day, the temperature anomaly looks like this. The cold air spreads further east. That colder air will hit the Great Lakes, causing lake effect snow. And you can see that the Continental Divide plays a big role here. The coldest air stays along and east of the divide, while west of the divide still stays relatively mild. So this is cold shot number one. And while we do not expect a big snow event along this first wave, I don't think it's real moist. There will be some wintry weather along it during that day Tuesday into the day Wednesday in particular. Then we wait for cold shot number two. The high pressure ridge gets better established, so that basically changes the dynamic, and we have this blocking high pressure ridge which has been up in the North Atlantic and around Greenland. So we're bookending the pattern here with two large high pressure systems. So when you get the high pressure ridges in the Eastern Pacific and the Central Atlantic here, the jet stream has nowhere to go but take dips. So as it does so, we need to follow, they say follow the money. We'll follow the pressure lines here coming into the western United States. The source region of the air is coming in from up here. So when we look at the source region of air, okay, it's much different. This is where our air has been coming from for the last several weeks. Now we're just changing the ballgame. We're changing the whole dynamic. So here comes the colder air feeding into the system. So this is by next Saturday. This is by Sunday. The colder air deepens. Along the boundary here, where the cold air is meeting the warmer air from the Gulf and the moisture, well, it's like gas and matches. You're going to be causing a lot of wintry weather and a lot of problems. So the Thanksgiving travel period is really going to be impacted really over a good part of the nation here. As we see, the eastern seaboard is probably going to escape through Thanksgiving anything bad, but the nation's midsection is going to be potentially a travel headache with this Arctic air spilling on in, especially as we get into the weekend. These are the temperature anomalies by next Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and then the Sunday following. The Arctic air just pours south, blue norther into Texas, and then right along the boundary, you're going to have a lot of winter weather right here. And if we just take a very coarse look at the snow potential, again, this is just for display purposes only, but it does look like this is where we're going to have our travel problems, really starting Tuesday and lasting through next Sunday. The I-80 corridor across the nation's midsection, the Great Lakes with lake effect snows, and then we're going to see a smattering of snows along the Arctic boundary coming into the Rockies and the high plains. So stay tuned. We'll have more for you tomorrow. The details we'll be able to discuss a little bit more as we get a little bit closer. Have yourself a good Wednesday.